What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, Escape the Matrix podcast. Here I am your host, Oliver Powell, and we have a special guest here with us today. The story and the information, the insight that he's going to, be dropping with us today is going to be, truth be told, it's going to be life-changing. So whatever it is that you got going on now, go ahead and push it to the side. Make sure that you're paying attention because this one's going to be a good one here. Trust me. So for the guests that we have here with us today, we have entrepreneur, businessman, leader for sure, Mr. Mel Mitchell. Mel, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you being here on the show with us today. And so you could have been doing literally anything else in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. So, and I appreciate that. So we'll kind of jump straight into it. We'll allow Mel to kind of tell his story about what it is that he does, why he does what he does, right? So we'll kind of jump straight into it. But let's start off with this. Mel, where you from?
Where am I from? I'm from a place in Dallas known as Oak Cliff.
Already. Awesome. And so what are you doing today?
So today I manage a company. My company is Drive Influence. We're a leadership development company, so we work with organizations to help them solve their leadership challenges. And so, for example, if you've ever been on a team where you have one goal, but it seems like you're going in 5 directions, that's a leadership issue. Or if you working with managers and they're not really able to manage, actually, they're focused on managing. They're not focused on leading. That's a leadership issue. Because without leadership, your company, your organization is just going to float like a boat without a rudder.
Yeah.
So we're here to help them solve those challenges.
That's awesome there. That's awesome. And so how long have you been doing this business for?
So I started my company in roughly about 2010,
Okay.
right after I left Microsoft.
Okay. And okay, so hold on. What were you doing at Microsoft? Well, yeah, let's kind of stop right there. What were you doing at Microsoft?
All right. So if you don't mind, I'll just back up just a hair just to tell you just a 30-second glimpse of my background.
Take your time.
So I have degrees in engineering. I have an undergrad and a master's degree in electrical engineering. Undergrad, I went to Louisiana Tech, UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I went there for my master's in electrical engineering. And so been on this engineering track for a good number of years. I did it at Bechtel. I did it at Raytheon Missile Systems. And then I switched to IT while at Microsoft. Now, one thing that's helped me everywhere I've ever gone, working-wise, was always doing the extra, right? And so you get a job description, that's your contract. That's what you're required to do. The extra, if it's a hot chocolate, the extra is the sprinkles and the marshmallows on top.
Right.
That's extra. That's what kicks it up a bit. So everywhere I've ever worked, I've always helped with, recruiting interns, helping people get onboarded, looking for ways to help develop those around me. And so while at Microsoft, I was on loan to United Way to help with our giving campaign. And so we were going out giving speeches saying, hey, give money to the United Way there at Microsoft. So after I gave my speech, I got pinged by an HR director. He said, hey, Mel, we liked your presentation. Let's talk about the program and what your career aspirations are. I'm like, cool, let's talk. So I met with Michael, and I said, hey, Michael, this is the program. And so we started talking about the organization, IT organization. And I said, one of the issues I see is we hire leaders, but we don't grow them. But I said we could solve this issue by creating a rotation program where we develop the next set of leaders for the organization. And he's like, no, I kind of like that idea. So I followed up an email to him. He took my email, sent it to the CIO. The CIO sent it to Chris Fernandez, the director for HR director. And Chris sent me an email, said, hey, Mel, we like your idea. Let's talk about the program, and do you want to run it?
Wow.
That's how I made a transition from being an engineer to HR talent development. But when I looked back, all the extras is what added to it. Because had I not done those extras, I'd have only been able to do engineering work. But then I had insight on how different things were doing. I was doing like stretch assignments to help from a diversity standpoint, right? Doing these different reports. So I actually had insight on what was broken.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have gotten that had I just done what was in my contract.
Mm. That's big there. There's a lot of lessons in what it is you just said. And I think the biggest one is going the extra mile.
Yes.
I think a lot of people, especially for, in terms of the times that we're in now, especially when we're looking at, inflation being high, unemployment is high, a lot of people getting laid off. And so people are, searching through jobs at this moment in time, looking for work. And they're looking at descriptions and they're like, okay, well, I can do X, Y, Z. That's fine and dandy. And if that person is fortunate enough to, be extended an offer, they accept, they're in that position, great. And they tend to be stagnant or just kind of go flat, right? But really going that extra mile doesn't just help them in terms of like professionally, but it just helps them outside of work as well. Just going the extra mile in your marriage and your relationships or whatever the case may be, you'll just really see the quality of life exponentially grow from just doing the bare minimum or just kind of breezing by to going the extra mile. So that was really big, and I like that. I like how you kind of gave the analogy in terms of having hot chocolate and doing like the extra, the sprinkles, right, the marshmallows, because it's important.
Yeah. Because still going along with the hot chocolate example, you can run down to like any gas station almost and get a hot beverage, a hot chocolate beverage. It's going to come out in a styrofoam cup, scalding hot. Technically, it's hot chocolate. Or you might drive down past a couple other coffee shops to go to that one place where they take care of you. Then when they see you, say, Oliver, you're here. Or they have your hot chocolate ready, waiting for you. They know that you want it made a certain way. That's going the extra. But that extra encourages people to go extra for you.
I like that. So there's a little bit of a reciprocity.
Yeah.
It's like a two-way street, essentially.
It is.
That's
and
good.
If you don't mind me adding just one additional thing.
Go ahead.
Oftentimes when talking with folks about their careers, and, we have this thing called like the annual review, where you sit down, you talk with your manager and say, hey, these are the things that I said I was going to do. And they look at it, you look at it, and then they say, okay, you're going to get a 2% raise. Good luck, right?
Yeah.
And people get upset. Say, man, I did exactly what my manager told me to do. Yeah, that's the contract. They wrote it down on a piece of paper. You said, yes, that's what I'll do. There was no extra there. So why should they give you extra money if you're just doing what they asked you to do?
Right. That's a good point there. It's that's a great point there. Like I said, going the extra mile is really big, but there's a lot of people that are having those annual reviews, and that may have a 1, 2, 3% raise or whatever that bump may be. And for some people, once they kind of get that reaction, or they get the information, and their reaction is like, well, I've been putting in the work, I've been doing X, Y, Z, and it's like, well, based off of, what we said, what we agreed to, you basically just did your job.
Yes. Yeah.
So nothing less, nothing more, but you just did your job. And I think people kind of having that mindset or staying in that lane of just doing their job, not only do they do their company a disservice, but more importantly, they actually do themselves a disservice.
By far.
They do themselves a disservice, and then in a lot of situations that kind of trickles down to family or whoever it is they may be providing for, and it kind of spreads out from there.
True.
So,
yeah, because you can probably look at all areas in their lives. All areas in their lives is probably average. My mentor, Mario Pipkin, used to tell me, hey, Mel, if you do exactly what you're told, that's average.
I like that.
So if you're doing what you're told, that's average. If your manager encourages you to do something else, which raises the bar, and you do that, that's your new average.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that breakdown there.
Yeah.
I can already tell this is going to be a great episode. I can tell this is going to be a good one here. So to kind of reel it back into like the leadership front in terms of what it is that you do for your business, right?
Right.
What are some strategies you have implemented to ultimately develop talent and build effective leadership in organizations? What does that look like for you?
So a couple different ways. And even to back up again, just looking at leadership as a whole. So I believe that leadership is the catalyst to having a great career, team, or business. If you look at an organization that's doing well, it's because of leadership. If you look at one that's truly struggling, that's probably also because of leadership. If you look at somebody that's having a successful career time after time after time, I'm willing to bet that's leadership. And so when it comes to leadership, it's part of it's process and repeatability and striving to always continue to get better at what you do. Now, also, I like the definition that John Maxwell gives when it comes to leadership. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's not about how many people do you have reporting to you. It's about your influence. Do you have the ability to influence your group, your team, or even yourself? Because that's where it starts.
Right.
If you're not able to influence yourself to get up out of bed and go read some extra books to get ready for work, who are you leading? Who can you lead if you can't lead yourself? And so best practices that I've done is kind of multi-stage, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes if I'm working with individual contributors, helping them to be able to lead themselves extremely well and to understand what it takes to influence those around them. Now, if we're looking within an organization, those that have been placed in positions of managing and leading people, one part is how are they leading themselves, but also are they building other leaders? Because one of the core requirements as a leader is to replicate yourself. If you're not developing other leaders, what are you doing? Great organizations have leaders at every level. People that can make decisions at every level. If you want everybody to have to always come and ask you on how to make the decision for the team, you're not the leader, you're the dictator. So the question becomes, which do you want to be, the leader or the dictator? Because that probably also goes back to ego.
Yeah.
Your best leaders oftentimes are the ones that are humble, but have that strong will.
So let me ask you this. So let's say you're having an interaction with an individual. Let's say they're just an individual contributor for a company. They're kind of just breezing by, right? Or at best, just hitting their numbers. Let's just say it's a salesperson, for example. What are some of the things that you would share with them if you want to, I guess, get a little bit more specific, or even just share an example that you may have kind of, in the back of your back pocket, right? What does that look like in terms of kind of getting them out that rut that they may be in mentally? What does that look like in terms of helping them get out and then helping them become an effective, contributor for the company and then potentially an effective leader?
Yeah. So one key thing is to remember as leaders, we're all in the middle. Doesn't matter how high up you go or if you start at the bottom or if you start at the top, you're still in the middle. So you have somebody you have to report up to, down, and across.
Right.
And so let's say the entry level individual contributor. One of the key things is I would encourage them to dive into the mindset of those that they've been entrusted to help. What do they need? What are their aspirations? How are they defining success for them? Especially if you're selling, right? Because they want something that's going to help to make their company successful. They want something that's going to help them win. Understand that first.
Yeah.
And so looking at and understanding those things is key. You're not the main you're not the main one in this equation. They are. It's less about you, more about them.
I like that.
The other part I would encourage folks to do is ask questions, then listen.
Yeah.
Listen, right? And listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're not saying. And then look for ways to help them to get where they're trying to go.
I like that.
Yeah.
So to kind of summarize, for someone that's an individual contributor inside an organization, some of the things that they should look to do to get themselves out this rut, and let's just say their goal is to maybe rise to the ranks within the company or just to be in a better position and just enjoy their career, make it a little bit more fulfilling. We're talking about on the lines of leadership. Ultimately looks like, one, putting others before you. I'd say that's the first one. And truly taking the time to have conversations with people, but not just for the sake of having conversations, just to be talking, but truly listen to what that other person is saying, hear them out, and assuming that, leadership is a road you want to go, the path you want to go down, how can you genuinely help that person in the way that they, that they would like to be helped?
Yeah. And one additional thing, I think that regardless of levels of people that I've talked with over the years, one thing that a lot of people struggle with is truly understanding their why. People oftentimes, as Simon Sinek says, people know what they do, they know how they do it. Very seldom do they know why. And so I encourage folks first to understand their why, then look for what type of career you can build around it, then find that job.
Yeah.
But oftentimes people say, hey, I'm going to go find a job. They don't even know why. They're just trying, yes, I get it. We got to pay bills. We got to keep lights on. That's the bare minimum. But if you have the opportunity to understand your why, what's driving you? Why do you want to do what you do? What type of dent do you want to make in the universe? Then go for it. Then look for what type of career you want to build around it. Then what type of jobs are available. So like for me, one of my core whys is to help people actualize their greatness. And so I look for that in all different ways. If I look at a video, or I was looking at some videos on how the military trains its folks.
Okay.
But I'm looking for how can I take some of their lessons and help other people grow.
I like that.
And so, but you have to take time to understand your why.
So I think a fair follow-up to that would be this, because truth be told, I think there's a fair amount of people that are going throughout the world that are just kind of like on autopilot. The frame, or I guess the words, I guess how I phrase it is like drifters. People are just kind of like drifting, kind of breezing with the wind, right? I guess a fair follow-up question would be, how can someone find their why? Okay. And I know that's a tough one, but if it kind of stumps you a little bit, feel free to revert to the next question. How did you find your why?
All right. No, that's an excellent question. And so one of the things that I say for when it comes to understanding your why, or understanding what's in your heart, I believe what's in our heart is our passion, purpose, and audacious goal. And so, what are you truly passionate about? What is that thing that you love to do, that you wake up early on, that you nerd out to? If you're getting paid or not, you're like, I just want to research this. I just want to learn it. Pay attention to that. The other thing I encourage folks to do is to look at what are your core values. What are some of the things that leads you when it comes to values? Do you believe in hard work? Do you believe in constantly learning? What are those values that guide your life? Because we're all where we are today, probably because of the values of our parents or someone, older around us that helped us out.
Right.
Those values help to guide us where we are. Then the other thing I would encourage folks to do is say, hey, what do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with what you're passionate about? Tying those three things together helps you to understand it. Or perhaps even look at it from this standpoint. How can the world benefit from the greatness that's within you? Right? How can you help the world benefit from your passions? So if you know how you're passionate about something, it could be about technology, it could be about communication. Yeah. How do you want to help the world benefit from that? That will give you, I believe, a good idea what your why is. And then you can move forward.
I like that. So for you and your journey, because you've experienced life, longer than I have, right? So you've seen some things.
I'm old. Okay.
Yeah. I don't
That's a good way to put it. Yes, I'm old.
I don't want to say it like that.
Yeah.
But you're more experienced than I am, right? That's fair to say. Fair to say. Yeah. But so you started off from Oak Cliff, right here in the neighborhood, right?
Yes.
From here to Louisiana Tech, go Bulldogs.
Yes.
First and foremost, go Bulldogs. Being an engineer, going from that into the corporate world, hopping around from different companies, but I guess your last corporate venture or endeavor was with arguably the biggest, if not one of the biggest companies out there, Microsoft.
Right.
You take that and then you go into entrepreneurship. At a time, truth be told, where kind of off the tail end of a recession around 2010, maybe for some people it's kind of still fresh, right? What kind of compelled you to go from, I'm assuming here, a high-paying, financially stable corporate job with one of the biggest companies out there to come and start something that's on, start something from the ground up on your own?
Yeah. No, you sound like my parents.
Yeah.
When I told them, like, I think it's time for me to leave, they were like, why?
Yeah.
It's a good job.
Right.
You got good insurance and everything.
Right.
Like, it's just time. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
And my parents are entrepreneurs, too.
Yeah.
But they know the struggle that comes along with it. But the reason why, it was time. It was just time to go do something else. I love working at Microsoft. I love working with the people there. Really smart, really creative, tech-focused folks. I enjoyed it. You work hard. You make your money. But you're going to grind. But I loved working there. I have no bad feelings about leaving there. But it was just time.
Understood.
To go do something else.
Understood. So with your business now, if you could just share with us, like, what are some of the verticals that you have in your business? Like, what does that look like? Is it just business to business, public speaking, presentations, one-on-ones? Well, what does that look like for you and your business?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of times I'll work with organizations or work with teams to help them gain their alignment, to understand where they want to go, also to create that culture so they can build and grow and move forward. So I like doing that a lot. Also do one-on-one coaching and also group coaching. So I have a group I call Apex.
Okay.
So I meet with them. They're all senior leaders. We meet once a month, and we focus on leadership topics, but also looking at how they implement those topics on a day-to-day basis. So helping them grow as leaders. The beautiful thing is everyone that I've seen in the group, I've had in the group, their career has grown.
That's amazing.
In whichever way, right? One person's in sales, her sales have doubled. Another person's doing different things in engineering and so on and so forth. And so there is a process to it. So that's another thing that I do. But also, yes, you bring up public speaking. So I've been asked at different times to, speak on different things. Could be about, alignment, how to align your heart, head, and body. Meaning, like as I spoke earlier, what's in our hearts, our passion, purpose, our audacious goal. What I believe is in our head is our focus and influence. So where we place our focus changes our whole direction, right? Yeah. Influence is how we lead ourselves, and our body does the work and action. So I've done presentations on that, and a bunch of, you name it, I've kind of done them that way. So I've enjoyed, and I still enjoy, doing presentations and doing keynotes and talking with groups, helping people to achieve their greatness.
That's awesome. That's awesome there. So to kind of, because I want to go back to the public speaking here in a second, but I want to ask this last question, kind of like along the realm of entrepreneurship and just being a business owner. So when you started, was on the tail end or in the midst of a recession.
Yes.
Here we are now in 2023. Government hasn't announced it, but it is essentially a recession that we're pretty much in. Inflation is high. People are getting laid off, so unemployment is growing, unfortunately, right? So there's a lot of just uncertainty, economic uncertainty that's going on. For you as a business owner, what are you and I guess your team, how are you guys looking to maneuver through a time that I guess it may be a little similar from at least when you started, but how are you guys looking to maneuver through a time like this?
Yeah, it's definitely, these times are challenging. So there are a couple different things. One, partnerships are important. So I've had the benefit of a lot of times the work that I come across is because somebody that I've worked with maybe at Microsoft, at another company, and they were like, oh, give Mel a call. He's really good at doing X. And we have a conversation and it works out that way. So one is maintaining those connections. Two is also learning how to leverage and learn when things get slow. Because they're going to get slow at some point. Yeah. So what do you do at that time? Do you just go on vacation or do you try to get stronger? And so a lot of times if things get slow, I say, hey, that's when I got to grind. That's when I got to learn something new. So when I come out, I'm not at the same point where I went in.
Yeah.
And so it might be focused on getting a coaching type of certification, or it might be understanding how to do better analysis of teams. So if you're running a business and things get slow, take some time to learn.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good there. And and thank you for sharing that, because there's a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs that want to start their own business, or that may have already established their business, kind of not even up and coming, but it's running, functional businesses, systems, processes, the whole thing. But now we're going into a time where, like I said, financial, economic uncertainty, just a lot of things are going on externally. I just wanted to ask that question, hey, what are some things that they can do to look at, coming out of this time alive,
Mm-hmm.
but not only just alive, but better. And so looking at ways to build their skills, hone in on skills, look for coaching, ultimately just taking the time to build, and not just taking the time to relax while things may be slowing down, just depending on how your business is.
Yes. And the third thing that I would also encourage folks to do is get uncomfortable.
Mm.
So you probably have some ideas in your head saying, no, I should do X. But I'm scared of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Stepping out there, that's going to make the biggest difference.
Man, and to that point, in terms of being uncomfortable, you are experiencing, you're living some very uncomfortable experiences for, I would say, a bulk of the world. And what I mean by that is this: you've started your own business from one of the biggest companies, right? You started your own business. That is very uncomfortable for a lot of people, even though entrepreneurship is a goal for a lot of people, but it's uncomfortable, right? It's a lot of things that go into it. So that's one. But in the same vein, we kind of alluded to it here earlier, is public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
People would rather die than to talk in front of others.
Yes.
Right? So my question to you would be this. How do you approach public speaking? And what tips do you have for aspiring speakers that want to educate and inspire others?
Yes. So the way I got into public speaking, I was working in Las Vegas, and one of my coworkers, Mel Green, said, "Hey, come with me. Next week we're going to go speak at this in this program called Payback: Professionals and Youth Building a Commitment." He said, "We're going to go out and talk to these junior high kids in this program." I was like, "Okay, cool." I was nervous, real nervous. And the way it's set up is they take two professionals and they put you in a classroom with the junior high kids.
Mm-hmm.
Each person has 15 minutes to talk. And I got up. I went first.
Mm-hmm.
I got up. Blah, 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 boom. I sat down in like 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
I was so scared. I was just nervous.
Yeah.
And then so the other person had to do like 25 minutes of material.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went back again. I went back again. Went back again.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over. Now, I don't get nervous at all. I don't care how many people in the room. It could be 4,000 people. I'll get up and go on the mic. It doesn't scare me. So my advice to people is, if you want to become a public speaker, start small. Find any audience. The beautiful thing about when you go and speak to kids, they keep it real with you.
Yeah.
If they don't like you, they be like, they're just going to look at you.
Yeah, that's a fact.
That's what you're going to get, right? They're just going to look at you.
Mm-hmm.
But as you become better and learn how to, if you can engage 7th and 8th graders, you can probably engage any other audience.
I like that. I like that there. And speaking to audiences in terms of, not even really in terms of public speaking, but just having an audience, someone would have to have a message in order to have an audience, right? You have done many things, right? But in addition to being a business owner, public speaker, you are also an author.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the book that you made and what's the message behind that book.
Okay. All right. So throughout our conversation here, I've also been dropping little parts of the book in there.
I like that.
Yeah. So the way that the title of the book is called Kinetic Life.
Kinetic Life.
Kinetic Life, right? And so life for us it's an activity. And so for us to be fully kinetic, and that's when You go from building your potential to actually putting yourself into action.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it as a parable, as a story.
Yeah.
So it's a more senior person mentoring a junior person.
Mm-hmm.
And this, the structure of the book, a lot of conversations came from my mentoring conversations with folks with younger, early in career people.
Mm-hmm.
And so having those conversations and helping them, one, to like understand how to align their heart, head, and body.
Yeah.
How to define their goals, how to get over some of those roadblocks, how to have those hard conversations, and how to think about where do you want to go. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as you mentioned earlier, versus drifting,
yeah,
having that direction. And so that's what Kinetic Life focuses on. And so it's broken down into, I'm still an engineer
mm-hmm.
in my mind,
yeah,
because I see these things as processes,
mm-hmm.
as equations, as things that we should do. And so I just kind of break it down into a non-engineering way at all. So you don't need to know nothing about no engineering.
Good.
It's just a regular story. Just a regular story.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of it, my goal is for you to be able to say, hey, you know what? This is what I know is in my heart to do. This is where I want to go. And I have a plan. At least some form of a plan, at least a 30, 60, 90-day plan
mm-hmm.
to at least start doing something. You know, whenever I do public speaking, my goal is for you to be able to go do something tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't want you just to be excited and go home and be like, what am I excited about? I don't know, but it's really exciting.
Yeah.
No, I want you to be able to say, hey, tomorrow, this is what I'm going to go do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take some time and think about my goals, even if it's only 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So in that same vein, in terms of writing a book and being an author, I guess can you provide some practical tips for individuals who are interested in becoming authors themselves?
Yeah. Start small.
Hmm.
Start small. Because writing a book can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I encourage people just to say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to spend 5 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, Mel, what can I do with 5 minutes? Well, most likely, if you start with 5 minutes, it's going to grow to 7.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next day, that 7 might grow to 10. That 10 might go to 15. But if you never start, you'll never get anything on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Then the longer you wait and delay, the more fear will creep in.
Mm.
You'll figure out more reasons why you shouldn't do something versus spending 5 minutes on, let me just spend 5 minutes on this outline. Let me look up something for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Start small, it will grow. The next thing I would encourage folks to do is get some real feedback.
Real feedback, what do you mean?
So your family is going to tell you, baby, that's so good.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like when you go to church and somebody go up and forget their whole Easter speech.
Uh-huh.
They're like, take your time. Take your time.
Yeah.
Right? Ain't nobody going to say nothing bad about you.
Right.
You need the person to say, hey, dog,
This
not
is
like
not
that.
it. Yeah.
But also to give you that real feedback, but also give you that uplift
Mm-hmm.
so that you can become a little bit better at what you do.
I like that. That's good there.
Yeah.
That's good there. And I think it's very important for people to get real feedback, because whenever we have ideas or projects or just books, whatever the case may be, the first people normally that we're going to go to is our friends and our family. And 9 times out of 10, just depending on your friends and then just depending on your family, they're going to say, oh, man, that was great. It looks good. It was the best thing I've ever read since whatever, right? Or the best thing I've ever seen, best idea ever. But once you kind of put it in the face of a stranger or some real friends or some real family members, someone that's willing to give you some real feedback, I think then and only then you'll have the opportunity to truly grow as a professional, as an author, whatever your endeavor may be. Getting some real feedback from someone that doesn't have any bias, that truly changes the trajectory of what it is you're doing. It's like, I believe, exponentially, right?
Oh, it does.
Yeah. So to kind of tie things back up here on the leadership front, this is a question I actually meant to ask you this earlier, but I'm just thinking of this now.
Mm-hmm.
what are, I guess, some common mistakes that you see from, people that want to be good leaders? What are some of the common mistakes that you're seeing? And you're just like, okay, hey, this is not the best way to go about XYZ. Let's look at this as an alternative.
Right. So I think a couple of different things.
Mm-hmm.
One, they don't have a clear vision.
Mm.
Right? And so if their vision where they're trying to go is not clear, but yet they're going to get upset when people aren't following them,
Mm-hmm.
how can the people follow you if you don't know where you're going?
Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of times there are leaders that are like, well, Mel, they're not all doing it. So, well, tell me what's the clear vision?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you trying to go this year to next year? Well, we're working through that. Well, are you going to expect them to work through it too? Not exactly.
Yeah.
Right? I think the other part is for a lot of leaders, or I should actually say a lot of managers,
Mm-hmm.
they're looking to manage people.
Mm.
So let me ask you this. So you're working for another company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever wake up in the morning saying, man, I hope I really get managed?
No.
No, nobody
Never
does.
happened.
People don't want to be managed.
Right.
They want to be led. They want to be inspired. They want to be able to attach to a vision. Maybe that's one that's bigger than their own.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be able to define that if you want to be the leader. Because being a leader is not just about telling people what to do. It's about leading people where they want to go.
Yeah. Man, that's amazing there. Man, that's amazing there. So, excuse me, in your journey of leadership, and I think leadership can really be like truly a lifelong journey,
Yeah.
just like learning, right? It's a lifelong journey, or at least it should be a lifelong journey,
Yes.
right? Can you share some personal experiences or leaders that have helped shape your journey? Who were they, and how did they kind of impact your path?
Yeah. So the first person that hired me at a college at a Louisiana Tech,
Mm-hmm.
person by the name of A.C. Hollins.
A.C. Hollins.
So A.C. graduated from Tech back in 72.
Mm-hmm.
Real strong brother. He's actually the first group of African Americans that stayed on campus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so AC hired me in 92. I had the benefit of working in his organization. Two things I really liked about AC. One, when I would observe him, is how he would instruct people,
Mm-hmm.
and how the way that he would give feedback and support people even when they would mess up.
Mm-hmm.
One time I asked him, I said, AC, what's the hardest thing to do as a leader? I said, hey, it's to support your people when they screw up.
Mm.
So many leaders want to throw their people underneath the bus. But that's when he would hold on to them and help them be better.
Mm.
And so when you have that type of leader, you're bolder. You're stronger. You're going to go hard. Why? Because you know he has your back. They have your back.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things that I was able to do my first 5 years of my career was because of what AC opened up doors for me. Like my second year at a college,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a lot of work through UNLV, volunteering there, the minority engineering program. And AC said, hey, Mel, there's a MEP coordinator position coming up.
Mm.
It's going to be available. You want to do it? I said, we'll put you on loan to the university for a year.
Mm.
You want to do it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes was my answer. He asked me in the parking lot. I said, yes, right there.
Mm-hmm.
But he invested in me. I respect him him and his wife are like my second set of parents.
Yeah.
And as I was finishing my master's degree at UNLV, going to school at night,
Mm-hmm.
I said, AC, this is what I want to do. And he said, I can't provide that for you. I would love for you to stay, but it's now at this point where you're going to have to go.
Mm.
You have to go so that you can grow. And so he cared about me enough to say, hey, you know what? Versus him trying to hold on to me and help out the company, he said, hey, I want to invest in you and encourage you.
Mm-hmm.
And that made all the difference. Interesting thing is, when I started my company, he was one of my best customers.
Wow.
Yeah, so it went 360, right?
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. So it was, at the end of the day, it was time.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
time. It was
Yeah.
time.
Just like transitioning from Microsoft to being your own entrepreneur, starting your own company, it was time.
It was time.
Yeah, that's amazing there. Man, that's amazing there. I have truly enjoyed this experience. This conversation was very insightful. You dropped a lot of gems, Mel, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you for that.
No more questions?
Man, let's see. You threw you on the spot a little bit. Go ahead.
So what would you say has been your biggest challenge in your career thus far, right?
My biggest challenge in my career.
Or question for me, for you.
I think I'm gonna take that one. Okay.
Right.
So what has been the biggest challenge in my career? Okay. If I can be 100% honest, 100% transparent, I think the biggest challenge in my career for me thus far is truly believing in myself.
Okay.
And not like just to say like some rah bump my chest, believe in me, yeah, look at me, whatever. But like truly believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So much so to the point where whatever that opportunity is I may be pursuing, it's like I feel some type of almost like entitlement. Like, hey, I deserve this opportunity because I put in the work. I've proved it to myself that I can do X, Y, Z. And I believe that once opportunity is in my hands, I'm gonna take great care of it. And I'm gonna take great care of the people that have been around me and a part of that process.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think that would be the biggest challenge for me. And that's the realest answer I can give you.
And what you're facing and experiencing, so many people, almost all of us experience the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things I would encourage you on is this. We all have that saboteur, that judge that's in our head that speaks as, hey, you're not good enough. Oh, you might fail. What if this? What if that? Right? It's a bunch of different types of saboteurs. To acknowledge that judge is saying something negative to you, and then put that judge in his corner.
I like that.
But it's okay to acknowledge that doubt, then move forward. But also, I encourage you to think about, like you said, you've been putting in work.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in the work that you've been putting in.
Mm-hmm.
You've had some other challenges in life, other things that you've overcome. Remember that. Mm-hmm. Remember those wins. And the other thing is this. Guess what? Everything that we try, we may or may not succeed at it, but you feel far better just by trying. Mm-hmm. Stepping out there. You might fail once. Boom, get back up. Might fail again. Boom, get back up. Then you start to succeed. Then you're going to make some progress time after time. Because you're not going to win the race if you stop running.
That's true.
Keep running. Keep walking. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a marathon. And the marathon continues.
Ultra marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an ultra marathon. That's a fact.
And you don't know. When you cross the finish line, that's it. Mm-hmm. But you don't even know where that finish line is. You just got to keep going.
I like
keep
that.
Taking those steps.
Yeah. Man, that's good there. Ooh, this is probably one of my more favorite episodes here. Okay. Because like I said, you dropped a lot of gems, and it was very insightful, and I think this would be impactful for a lot of people in different positions, people that are entrepreneurs or that want to become entrepreneurs, people that are in management or leadership roles within a company. Man, I think this message here is going to, I believe it's really going to touch the souls and the hearts of many people. Cool. And so, Mel, I appreciate you being on here. Before I let you go, two questions.
All right.
Yeah, 2 questions. First one, I'm really big on books. Reading has been a habit and something that I have enjoyed quite a bit here recently, starting some years ago, really. But for you and your journey in leadership or in business or just in life, what are you give us like your top 3 books that you read, that you enjoyed, that you want to share with the audience?
It's a lot of them. Right?
Yeah, maybe tough.
Yeah, because I nerd out and I read a lot of different books for a lot of different. And so I would say something that made a big difference in my life is one of the first leadership books I read was by John Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Yep.
If you're not familiar with John, he's written about 100 different books on leadership.
That's right.
Check them out.
Mm-hmm.
Another book that I read also at the very beginning was Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by Dennis Kimbrough and Napoleon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, being an African American, being able to see those stories of others that have stepped and gone before us, and knowing and envisioning the challenges that they overcame, makes what we have to do today a little bit simpler, right?
Yeah.
A little bit simpler, a little bit easier. Then I would also say, what else would I add in there? There's one book that I also liked is called The One Thing.
The One Thing. That sounds familiar.
One Thing. And so essentially it's a question. What's the one thing that if you, by doing that item, will make everything else easier or unnecessary? And so by following some of those concepts, it helps you to make and plan what you're going to do, prioritize it, get out the fluff, but cut to what's really important, what you really need to be doing. What do you truly need to solve? And that's one of the things that I liked about that book also.
Yeah. That sounds like a good one. I don't think I've heard of that one before. The One Thing. I'm going to have to write that one down. Add that one to the list. Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. I read that book about 2 years ago.
Okay.
When I first started working at really like my first actual job. I was in sales, still in sales, but at that job, it was insurance, right? And one of my coworkers, we kind of connected. We were talking about books or whatever, and he had that book. He gave it to me, and I just started reading through it a little bit. And from page one, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this book is amazing, so great." So much so to the point where I ended up creating a book club, had shared it with some other friends, and we kind of read that book for a month, and it was a great experience. So that's definitely up there for one of my favorite books as well.
Yeah. One other one that I also like is Trust and Inspire.
Trust and Inspire, okay.
Trust and Inspire by Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
And so it talks a lot about how do you inspire those around, and also how do you grow trust with them. Because when you think about it, trust is it's the same as confidence.
Right.
Right? You trust me to talk about leadership, but you don't trust me to talk about dentistry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's confidence there, right?
Right.
And so definitely another really good book, Trust and Inspire.
Awesome. That's awesome there. Mel, where can the people find you? So for people that are looking for your services, that want to connect with you, where can they find you on that front? Where can they find the book? They just want to connect with you just in general. Okay. Where can they find you?
All right. So the good thing is I'm the only Mel Mitchell on LinkedIn.
Awesome. The one and only.
The one and only Mel Mitchell. So you can find me on LinkedIn. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, just drop me a note saying, "Hey, enjoy listening to you," blah blah blah. Right. So I know where you're coming from. LinkedIn's one part. Let's see what else. For the book Kinetic Life, you can get it off of Amazon, so you can order it there.
Awesome.
Then also, I'm on Instagram also at the same time.
You on Instagram?
Yeah. I haven't posted anything in a while. I'm mostly just like clicking like and various different things right there. Also, my website is driveinfluence.com.
Driveinfluence.com. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate that, man. And before we wrap, any last things that you want to share with the audience before we go?
So one thing I would encourage folks to do is, so if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be in technology or in sales or whatever, find an organization of people that are going where you are going. Environment matters.
Yeah.
So, for example, for myself, I've been a member of National Society of Black Engineers since like 87, since I was back at Tech. And all of my main jobs, Bechtel, Raytheon, Microsoft, all came from NSB contacts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a past national chair for NSB professionals. And so that's also a place where I had a chance to practice and to learn things. And so find a place, find an environment of people that are thinking the way that you're thinking, that are going where you want to go. It's going to make a world of difference.
Man, I like that. That's awesome.
They'll push you, they'll support you, they'll encourage you, and they'll kick you in the butt.
Yeah.
When it's time. Yeah.
I like that. That's right. That's right. Well, people, there you have it. Mel Mitchell. Man, my brother, I appreciate you again. And we definitely got to catch up some more outside of this. And I'm looking forward for this one to drop. I think it's going to be a special one.
Cool. Thank you again for having me. I've enjoyed it. And, I can't wait to see it.
Awesome. So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for making it this far into the episode. If you guys have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and also make sure that we show love to Mel. Go ahead and buy the book, Kinetic Life. And if you're trying to reach out to him, connect with him on LinkedIn, Mel Mitchell. And also if you're looking for his services for the business in terms of growing your team, growing your leadership, and also looking for mentorship as well, hey, feel free to reach out to driveinfluence.com. That's a wrap, you guys. Thank you guys for making it this far. And until next time, y'all be safe.